Thank you, Rebecca, ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. So we meet again after lunch, post-lunch. So we're zooming into the finals of our debate. And the topic for this session will be climate change is irreversible for the senior group. So your topic, you know it very well. The rules are as before, 3 minutes given to you, and then an alarm will be sounded. And then that's the first round, followed by the rebuttal round, where you will get 1 minute to answer the questions asked by your opponents. So shall we begin, children? Right? May the best team win. All the best to all of you. We begin with the first speaker. First speaker for speaking for the motion is Prashansa Kumari of Indore.
A very warm afternoon to all the listeners. This is Prashansa Kumari representing AECS Indore, speaking for the motion that climate change is essentially irreversible. Well, we are living in the era of development, when every developing country wishes to be developed, and my worthy opponents in this world say that climate change is just not irreversible, it's reversible. I am definitely not supporting that. I strongly oppose this movement that climate change is irreversible. Well, climate change is definitely irreversible. Don't you feel like living in this world without just no carbon emissions? It's just a mere dream. Zero emissions is just a mere dream. We are living in this world wherein every person contributes to the production of carbon dioxide either in one way or the other. Do you feel like just living here without carbon dioxide is possible? Like reports say that it would take at least 1,000 years to make the change reversible, and that too after when the emissions are stopped. And we are living in this era wherein the uniforms we are wearing actually contribute a lot to the carbon dioxide which is being emitted daily by the factories. More global warming than ever before. More trees cut down than ever before. More increasing ozone hole than ever before. And you speak that the ozone hole is shrinking? I feel that's because of nature. Well, the climate change is essentially irreversible. You must note the fact that we are living in the era of development. We have built rockets, we have built nuclear weapons in conquest to conquer each other. And we say that it's just reversible. I think it's just like the doomsday isn't far from us. And I must mention that the fact NASA has also accepted the fact that the climate change is irreversible nowadays. I must tell you that we are living in the era wherein every person contributes to pollution or something. More pollution than ever before, air pollution, land pollution, water pollution, and whatnot. I feel like it's just me or speaking or something. It was just continue for millions and billions or thousands. You would just see like ozone hole shrinking and it would just be shrinked in hundreds or so years. But I feel that moving on to ahead, just go on speaking and hundreds would turn into millions, into billions, into thousands, and that would just go on. Well, my fellow debaters might even counter me with the fact that geo-engineers at MIT have found a way of just reversing the climate change with those silica bubbles in their space. But I think that it might be quite irreversible. So that's was it. And due to that, this was the thank you.
Thank you, Prashansa.
Ma'am, please provide blank papers to us. No price.
Just like earlier, if there's any printed matter with you or anything written, please take it off, give it to sir. So let's move on with the second speaker. This is Khwaish Verma from Indore, speaking for the motion.
A very fantastic morning to everyone present here. This is Khwaish Verma representing AECS Indore, and I'm here to speak in favor of the motion that climate change is irreversible. We all know that climate change has become an irreversible factor now. We all have crossed the limit to make this reversible. We all know about the carbon dioxide emissions which are taking place. These greenhouse gases are increasing the global temperature, and due to which so many glaciers are melting. A lot of bacteria and viruses which got trapped into these glaciers are now becoming alive, which are also leading to so many devastating diseases once again coming back. These glaciers melting are also increasing the sea level, due to which so many lands and islands are getting submerged. We all know about Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, which is going to get submerged. That's why it is getting evacuated. Also, one of the islands of Fiji is estimated to get submerged by 2050. That's why it is also getting shifted. Don't you think that climate change has become irreversible now? We all know about the chlorofluorocarbons, which lead to the depletion of the ozone layer. It also leads to so much of ultraviolet rays coming from the sun, which come to the earth. They cause skin cancer and many other skin diseases. Climate change has become irreversible now. There is no point of saying that it is reversible. On top of this, humans are also doing deforestation, due to which there isn't anything to hold the soil. When it rains, the soil erosion takes place, and the top fertile layer of the soil gets washed away. This is also leading to the decrease in the crop production, and which further decreases the amount of crops available for all of us. And when crops are not available, won't the prices go up? So the prices will also increase with that, and the poor won't be able to afford food for them. When the poor won't be able to afford food, they will try to snatch it from somebody who has it. So that will increase the crime in the country. What is this climate change leading us to? And on top of this, even if you stop all the carbon emissions, the carbon dioxide and the heat will continue to come out for at least 1,000 years. The reason is that the oceans are currently soaking up all the heat and the carbon dioxide put into the air. When all these emissions are stopped, it will start coming out of the oceans for at least hundreds and hundreds of years. And you will have to say that climate change is irreversible. There is no point saying that climate change is reversible. Few words, not much, but relevant and thoughtful. This was AECS Indore. Thank you.
Thank you, Khwaish. A request to the audience, kindly maintain silence because this will hinder with the judgment. Let's proceed. The next speakers are from Team Against. So this is Sheetal Bharadwaj from Narora speaking against the motion.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's me, Sheetal Bharadwaj, back here again to debate on the topic. Oh, sorry.
You can start.
I'm Sheetal Bharadwaj, back here again to debate on the topic climate change is irreversible. Well, it is a burning topic indeed, and I'm glad that I'm speaking against it. First of all, what my opponents have said, let me say it. She says that it will take 100,000 years to reverse the process. But within 3 years, let me just repeat, within 3 years, we have recovered the ozone layer, and that to 99% of ozone layer has been recovered within 3 years of the pandemic outbreak. And secondly, for example, if we are standing away from a mountain, it always seems impossible to climb it. But as we together step towards it, it seems impossible, and we can climb it. We succeed in climbing it. So together we can make it. It is important. It is our duty to. It is our duty to make people aware of the facts, and it is our duty to make people aware of it. And there are many people who are working in favor of it. For example, Sundar Lal Bahugunath, who was the leader of the Chipko movement, is now in Himalayas working for forest preservation, and he has also been awarded with Padma Vibhushan for it. And what if he was of the thinking that the climate change is irreversible? Why he would have made such efforts? So better, in spite of being convinced by these type of these type of things, better you should focus that each and everything is possible and each and everything can be reversed. For the people who are saying that the climate change seems irreversible or impossible, let me tell them that each and everything is possible, and within it shows that it has a very pessimistic approach towards all the things. Thank you.
You had over 1 minute to finish your speech. But okay, it's all right. We move on to the next speaker, and it is Pranjal Singh. Pranjal Singh from Narora, speaking against the motion.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm here speaking against the motion that climate change is irreversible. When we think of climate change, yes, I agree that it will take time. It can't be done tomorrow, today, or day after tomorrow, but it can be done if we want to. Anything that we want to have doesn't have to be given in our hand very easily. If we take time, we can reverse the climate change as well. If we take time, we will have attachment to the programs, to the efforts that we are making, and it will enhance the process of reversing the climate change as well. One of my opponents said that carbon emissions can't be reduced to zero, and that point I agree to. It can't be reduced to zero, but it surely can be reduced so that it can benefit for our environment. One of the opponent carried on with deforestation, then farmers, then robbery, and future of the country as well. But it's like we have heard a story in childhood that a child brought eggs, and then she thought, I will produce chickens, then more eggs, then chickens, then more eggs. It is like you can't predict the future in that linear manner. Future is not a thing that you can predict that easily. Apart from that, many environmentalists, many socialists are working in this movement. You might have heard of Mr. Beast, who participated in the program Save Trees and Project Seas as well. In that, $1 equal to one ton of garbage removed from the oceans, and he managed to collect $30,000. $30 million. Isn't it amazing? We are, if we think of anything, the first rocket launch that was done by India, or maybe the film you might have heard of Rocketry, in which Nambi Narayan is portrayed. In that film, he did amazing job, amazing achievements that if you think of will look impossible. It is like predicting the future in your own way. It's like saying that I will fail the exam, so I won't be doing any efforts to make it like you can get something out of everything. There are birds that have been extinct, but scientists are still going a way further in order to revive them by their DNA or any other means. We can also make people aware of the thing that climate change can be reversed. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranjal. Well, for the next speaker who's speaking against, you'll have to use that lectern. Okay? We move on to the team that is speaking for it, and this is Jigyasa from Rawatbhata 4, speaking for the motion.
The Californian fire, which caused a massive destruction in 2020, was an example where the human geography won over natural geography. Respected members of the jury, learned teachers, and the lovely audience, This is Jigyasa from class 12th, AECS number 4 Rawatbhata, and I'll be speaking in favor of the motion that climate change is irreversible. We have had many things, we have many things by the government. The government has launched many. The government has launched The government has launched many ideas which focus on reversing the climate, but we ask ourselves, is it actually successful? What is the success rate? If we ask this question to ourselves, we will see that the results are quite disheartening. This leads us to believe that are we actually working towards what we are trying to achieve? No. Again, in a hypothetical way, we can say that climate change is reversible, but we live in a practical world, and talking about it in the practical world, we can see that climate change is not reversible, it's irreversible. We cut trees, we make paper out of them, and then we write save trees. Is this what we are doing to reverse the climate change? Is this how we are working towards it? No. The glaciers, which are melting at a very high rate, can never be reversed. This leads us to the conclusion that though we can minimize the changes that we have done to the environment, but we can never totally erode it. So the threats that we have caused to the nature can never be reversed. This leads us to believe that the climate change is actually irreversible. Also, we can see in India that 50,000 kilometers of land has been cleared to make roads. We can see this example live in Rawatbhata, where the trees are being cleared, the houses are being pulled down to make roads. This leads us to the thing that deforestation has been a very important threat, and the rate at which deforestation is taking place is not equal to the rate at which the trees are growing. Though we are saying that forests can again be replanted, but the rate at which forests get replanted is not equal to the rate at which the humans are destroying it. For example, if we take the example of Amazon forest, which is considered the lungs of the earth, they are getting cut down at a very fast rate. So with this, I conclude my topic that climate change is irreversible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jigyasa. The next speaker speaking against the motion. For the motion, I beg your pardon, is Muhammad Ariful Haq from Rawatbhata, AECS School number 4.
I'm living in a world where seashore is getting shrunk, where the roads are getting eroded, and where the glaciers are getting melted. Respected members of jury, honorable teachers, and all the lovely audience present here. I am Muhammad Ariful Haq of class 12th B from AECS 4 Rawatbhata, and I am standing for the motion on the topic is climate change that climate change is irreversible. Many of my friends on my worthy opponents have said, and they will definitely say in the coming time, that we have a lot of technologies which can reverse the climate change. We can do a lot of seawater evaporation. We can do a lot of soil erosion can be reduced. But my direct question to them, like, if you want to set up a technology to reverse the climate change, it would take a lot of area. We would have to cut a lot of trees. We would have to take a lot of land. So much soil would have been eroded by that much technology that it would have taken years to compensate even that loss. There has been even many initiatives taken by the complete world to reverse the climate change, such as in 30 years back in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, where a lot of countries took oath seriously. They came together so that they would protect the environment. But at the ground level, at the micro level, what are we doing? For today's program, there has been so much paper consumption. I'm sorry to say, but really, this is also no, not a good sign of climate change. It's high time. It's an alarming situation, really, for all the citizens and everyone, that we must think on it. And to everyone who says that climate change is like it can be reversed, and it's practically impossible in the coming 100 years. Which world are we going to give to our next generations? And I would also like to say the famous quote that I have not borrowed, this world from my forefathers. Instead, I have no snatched it from my next generation. So in conclusion, I say that climate change is definitely irreversible, and no, it's very hard that we put it back in the coming years. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Arif. Let's move on to the final pair. The school from Kakarpara, the students will speak against it. Dhruvi Thakkar. Dhruvi Thakkar will come forward and speak against the motion. Could you use that lectern? Yes.
Humanity was said to be on the path of destruction of ozone layer by 2050. Scientists had warned that consequently all the ecosystems would collapse, skin cancer rates would soar, and life we know would cease to exist. But you know what? Something happened. Jai Hind. Respected everyone present here, I am here to present my strong views and opinions against the motion climate change is irreversible. So going back to the cliffhanger, ozone is basically this protective layer that protects us from the UV radiation, but is very fragile and was being severely affected by chlorofluorocarbons found in air conditioners, refrigerators, etc. In 1985, the world observed 40% depletion in the ozone layer, and in 1987, the world observed 50% of the ozone depletion. And following this, in the same year, an agreement was established, and it became the only agreement which was signed by every single nation in the history. This agreement banned the production and usage of chlorofluorocarbons and was thoroughly applied. Over 30 years later, the ozone hole is shrinking, and it is estimated that by 2065, it will fully recover. This is a strong standing example against all the opponents who are saying climate change is irreversible. I think we have to understand the topic here. Yes, climate change is a sweat-breaking process. It's a time-taking process. It's a difficult process. Yes, it will take time. It will take centuries. Maybe it will be passed on to next generations. But we can prepare our next generations for that. This does not make it irreversible. Besides, throwing light on just, oh my God, I did so bad to the climate that it's irreversible is a pessimistic point of view. It is not the solution of the problem. We cannot predict the future. The technologies are growing at a pace we cannot even imagine. People nowadays are becoming aware. This debate is happening because we are aware of the problem. Countries, whether you know or not, are taking initiative. And if you think it is impractical to get together the whole world, we have done it historically before, and we can do it again. All of you might think this is crazy, but you know what crazy people can do? The impossible. That's all. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Dhruvi. The last speaker for this session will be Aradhya Prakash from AECS Kakarpar, speaking against the motion.
A very warm good afternoon to all of you. I would like to express my views against the topic climate change is irreversible. There is no doubt that human activities have caused a lot of disruption to the climate, and there are many changes which are about to come. My opponents kept on saying before me that climate change is essentially an irreversible change, but there are a number of approaches which have resulted in proving that climate change can be reversed. Keeping the fossil fuels within the ground, stopping its extraction is one of the way to reverse the climate change, because whenever it is extracted, it is burnt, it releases a lot of harmful gases into the atmosphere, contributing to air pollution and global warming. Also, use of renewable energy, which are environment friendly and inexhaustible, including solar energy, hydel tidal power, etc., is one of the best option to promote and to consider. The next thing which can be taken into consideration is investment in the sustainable transport. We use petrol and diesels as a source of fuel in our vehicles, but in place of that, CNGs is in front of us. Switching to EVs is in front of us, which are environment friendly. Also, there is requirement of a lot of improvement in the farm activities. Farmers use many chemical substances in excess in order to have better growth of crops. But we can also prefer the organic substances, and we can even take the advantage of the technological advancements that have been done in the agriculture sector, which results in better growth of crops. After that, we know that trees are the carbon dioxide absorbers and oxygen emitters, and thus they maintain the balance between CO2 and oxygen in our environment. So for that, we need to plant more and more trees. We have to stop deforestation, and we even have to plant greenery. We even have to plant trees at those places where greenery had never been before. After that, we people use a lot of plastics in our daily life. We have to ban it. We have to completely prevent it, because from the process of extraction of plastic to its dumping, the whole process is a carbon intense process. There is a huge requirement of a proper mechanism of disposal of the chemical waste resulted by of the disposal of chemical waste released by industries, which is their byproduct into water and air, causing water and air pollution. I would like to tell my worthy opponents that having clean environment and pleasant climate is a dream of us, is a dream for us, and that dream is unapproachable. The dreams which are unapproachable are the ones which are not chased. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Aradhya. With that, we come to the end of the presentation round. Soon, within minutes, we'll start the rebuttal round. Are we ready, children, or you want a sip of water? Please carry on. Half a minute. Children, time's up. So let's go on to the rebuttal round. So the rules are the same. You will be asked a question from one of the teams. They'll pick up any one of you. And then the answer has to be given within 1 minute. The thinking time and the response time is covered by that 1 minute. Right? So each team gets 2 questions to ask and 2 questions to answer. So let us begin with Team Indore. It's your turn to ask your question. You may choose any one of them from the against team and ask them a question. Yes, Team Indore.
I would like to ask my question to AECS Narora. There is 3,290 gigatons of carbon dioxide caused due to our emissions, and this is not a joke. So how are we going to tackle this? I need the answer.
The world is working for it. That is, we are producing electrical cars, as well as we are promoting the use of fossil fuels, as promoting to the decline in the fossil fuel use as well. So I think programs are being made. We are taking steps towards it. So we should be positive about that it will be succeeding in future.
You're done with your answer? You want to continue? You still have 10 seconds. Done with it?
I think that wasn't convincing as such.
It doesn't matter actually. Let's move on to question 2. Team Indore, your second question, you may choose anybody from there.
My question to Team Kakrapar. We are talking something of science, right? Let me ask you a proof from the practical life. So, mention at least 3 countries where climate change is visible. Climate change is irreversible, and you need to accept that. If it is reversible, just mention any 3 countries as a proof.
The first country I would like to include is India, and the practical example of which you are asking is the example of Jalandhar at the time of lockdown. And we were able to see Himalayas from our home itself because there was lockdown imposed for 1 month, and due to that, due to some reduction in the human activities, the air was clean completely. There was very less air pollution. That's all. I am not aware with the rest 2 countries. I'm not having the example of rest of the 2 countries. Thank you.
Team Narora, your question. You can choose any one team.
We want to ask AECS 4 that you said the reports of climate change in India is disheartening, but how can you say that it won't be positive in the future? As we are making efforts for it.
Well, we are talking about a practical world, and as we can see, many things were introduced by the government, which actually there are plans which were introduced by the government to tackle this issue, like planting trees and all. But if we talk about the real world that we actually witness nowadays, it's not actually taking place. We have been introducing these things, but we are not actually totally following them. So if you look at the statistical data, they are not at all convincing. So that's what is going to happen in the coming years, because we are talking about a macro level, and that's a very serious issue because we have to spread awareness among so many people. So it would take a lot of years to overcome this.
Team Narora, your second question.
My second question is from the same team, that you also mentioned that what successful rocketry launch has given us. Let me say that our rocketry was being the first to land on Mars. What are you going to say about it? It was the first, our country's rocketry was the first to land on Mars. And you said that what rocketry launch has given us in return.
Please don't have this dialogue. Answer her question.
Maybe it could be possible. I just thought it was Rawatbhata.
I would like to step in. Your question has to be directed to Team Kakripar because they were the ones who mentioned that in their speech. You can direct that question to Team Kakripar. Then who is it who was mentioned?
It was actually mentioned, but maybe it could be possible. It was my fault that I didn't.
Yeah. Can you ask
Who has
the question
asked this?
quickly, please?
Ma'am, it was said that what successful rocketry launch has given us in return. But let me tell them what are their opinions for being our first, for being our country the first to launch rocketry to the Mars.
Can you rephrase your question, or can you ask your teammate to ask another question? Because that doesn't seem to be a valid and relevant question for this particular topic. Very quickly, child, and please direct it to one of your opposing teams.
I want to ask AECS 4. You said maybe technology in future will be able to make efforts for making efforts for change in climate change, but it will take deforestation as well. But sometimes we have to eat bitter medicine to get cure. What about that?
See, definitely what you have said is right, but at the starting level, there has been a lot of deforestation. So to complete that threshold, there has to be a lot of, there will be a lot of years, maybe 1 or 2 generations would even pass. So that medicine would be really better, I say. Thank you.
Team Rawatbhata, it's your turn to ask your question.
My question is for ACS Kakrapar. You suggested a lot of ways to minimize the changes that we are doing to our nature. But can we ever totally reverse it? Because, and here we are talking about the macro level, not the micro level. How do you plan on reversing the thousands of years of damage that we have done?
Well, I would like to ask, do you even want to completely reverse it, because the best climatic condition was in Stone Age? But I mean, due to human development, the climate has changed. The thing I think we have to focus here is the balance between human development and climate change. So yes, it cannot be completely reversed, but there is no need of actually completely reversing it.
Well, Team Rawatbhata, School 4, your second question, you have to direct it to Team Narora. You asked one question and that was directed to Team. You are speaking for the motion, right? So they'll be speaking against. So you have to pose a question to a team that spoke against the motion. And this is Narora. So you'll have to direct your question to Team Narora. You don't have an option because Kakrapar has already faced 2 questions.
My question is to ACS Narora. You said that we can compensate the climate change by doing a lot of reforestation in areas also where plants has not been grown. We would definitely grow. But what is your view at the micro level, at the ground level? How much are we doing, and what is the recovery rate of that, of deforestation?
We can't say about the recovery rate exactly, as we were not able to say about the green revolution. If we make a revolution for the plants as well, which can easily reverse the climate change in a very well manner, by taking CO2 in a better way. So we can't say it exactly, but we will be able to reverse the climate change by reforestation.
Well, the last team to ask questions will be Team Kakrapar. You have to direct your questions to Team Indore. Both your questions have to be to them. They haven't got a single chance to answer, so this is yours. Yes, Team Kakrapar, your question? Questions?
You people continue to say that there were many disheartening results due to which it's clearly proven that climate change is essential and irreversible change. But practically, there are many facts, and we have seen that within few times where human activities have stopped for a long time, the changes have occurred. So justify your contradicting opinion with the facts that have occurred in our own country.
Just like you said that when human activity is stopped, so all this climate change is becoming reversible. But do you practically think that human life will ever stop? It continues to grow. The population is increasing and everything is increasing. The human life will not stop. It was just during the lockdown that we all were forced to stay inside our homes. But in the real life, do we stay inside our homes? Are we contributing to no carbon emissions? The human life will continue to be like this, and climate change will become irreversible.
One second, before we move on to the next question, audience, kindly keep quiet because it becomes a hindrance for the judges. Please be a good audience. Now, question number 2 from Kakrapar, again directed towards Indore. Yes.
So one of the strongest points you gave here about climate change being irreversible is the success rate, right? But do you think success rate is the only calculating criteria? I mean, first time when in 1800s when the revolution against British had happened, the success rate was not there for the freedom of India, but still we are living in free air right now. So please give us some better measures to define the irreversibility
of climate change?
Don't you feel like 3,290 gigatons of carbon dioxide in air is sufficient enough to tell you that it is reversible and the time has gone now to make it reversible? Well, the fact that you just linked it to history, well, history is definitely not something related to science. Science is something which is done, and climate change is something which is going on, which is not something like future. It's something which we need to accept right now. It's a present, not a future. It is occurring. We need to accept that it is irreversible.
So with that, we come to the end of today's debate competition for the seniors. The presentation round got over, and now the rebuttal round got successfully over. We still have two opposing teams, and the topic is such a thing. You are either a pessimist or you are either you are either a pessimist or you are either an optimist. So you have two divisions, clear divisions. There's no merging like the topic you had for CCA. There you have a gray area. Here it is either you are a complete believer or you are not, or you have to successfully convince somebody towards your argument. Well, Greta Thunberg, I was just looking for one of you to mention her name. She is one among you, a teen who's fighting for climate change, who exactly quoted that quote, where she said, "You adults have borrowed your earth from us. Give back an intact earth to us." That is what she said. And while in school, she was sitting out and she went on a strike. She gathered a big audience and it became a huge revolution all across Europe. And people have heard her. Greta Thunberg, a teen activist. Well, children, again, coming back to it, and we are talking about history. If you don't respect history, you're condemned to repeat it. That is what Churchill said once. So keeping our historical mistakes in mind, we must try to take initiatives to reverse the irreversible. And somebody also said that you have to dream. You have to dare to be a dreamer. Where there are no dreams, there is no hope, and we'll end up being pessimists and the world is going to end. The world moves on because we are dreamers. So let us conclude today's debate. It's an excellent topic and you've tried your best to put in your thoughts and some of you have spoken brilliantly. Let us move forward on a positive note and let us really hope that our climate will be reversed and we adults will hand over a brilliant earth back to you. Though not totally green, we will give back something to you, and yes, we are seeing small and slight changes happening. Thank you very much, children. We thank all the teams for brilliantly speaking. You did come out with some excellent ideas, and we thank the judges. And let's hope to get the results soon. Before this, sir, could we have your expert views on it?
Good afternoon to all of you. So I'm just going to be talking about certain aspects related to language over the last few hours, not specifically addressing the just concluded debate competition. I think the preparation on the part of the students has been excellent. And obviously support has come from the teachers, but I think greater support could be expected from the teachers. And let us take the case of this word technology. I found that many students were repeatedly saying technology, right? So this is something which should have been addressed by the English teachers. I don't know why there was a lapse on this particular front. In fact, in grammar, we have this concept. Wherever you have a word which ends in this fashion, then this word stress, there is something called word stress, which is unique to the English language. As far as our Indian languages are concerned, you'll find that every syllable gets the equal force of breath, right? When you have a word like, say, appa, we say, in Tamil or Kannada, as the case might be, or even Telugu, we don't say appa. Both the syllables get equal stress force. But in English, that is not the case. You'll find that in a particular word, in a monosyllabic word, obviously the question doesn't arise because it has to be stressed. But where you have a bisyllabic word or a polysyllabic word, there is one syllable which gets the predominant stress. And there is even something called secondary stress, but there is one syllable Syllable, by the way, is the smallest sound unit. Okay. So wherever you have a word like technology, the word stress falls on the anti-penultimate syllable. Ultimate syllable is the last syllable, penultimate is the last but one, anti-penultimate is the last but two. Technology, right? Technology. And then when you frame it as an adjective, it becomes technological. There is a shift in the syllable to maintain that rule, right? Technology, because techno, then you have two syllables after that. Technological, because after that you have G-cal, right? Technology, technological, biology, biological, zoology or zoology, then zoological, botany, botanical, right? And then you had this word monopoly, which was a monopoly or something like that. Then for a word like message, somebody was saying massage. So these are things which were very obvious and should have been addressed by the teacher concerned, right? And then you have a word like one of the largest producers, right? So whenever you have this word, the largest, so that noun also always has to be in the plural form. I think what is misleading you is the existence of that word one. So the easy way of remembering that would be among these countries, there are 3 or 4 countries and these are the largest producers. Among these 4 largest producers, this is one among them, right? Similarly, Bangalore is one of the most interesting cities, right? So don't get misled by one. So whenever you have such cases, the noun will always have to be in the plural form. One of the most exciting places to be in, right? One of the most interesting cities, one of the largest producers. So a word like technology, biology, and cope will not be followed by up. It will be cope with. So there were umpteen cases where, as far as language is concerned, there was ample scope for improvement. And I believe this was not for want of preparation on the part of the students, but greater support has to be given by the teachers. Okay? And then I feel that you have these parameters like content, presentation, and something else. I believe that language has been subsumed on the presentation. I do believe that we have to take a serious relook or rethink with regard to the parameters, and then you need to have a separate section for language, albeit just to the extent of 10%, but you need to be reflecting language separately and not be placing it under content. Then you see, we need to get our basics right. In many cases, you see, we are not sure about language, and then we find people saying heinous crime. It is only heinous crime. Grievous mistake, you'll find a lot of people saying grievous mistake. Okay, these are all blunders, Himalayan blunders, I would say. And there are some people who will be saying blunder mistake, which is a mistake. You say it's a mistake, it's a blunder. You can't say that it is a blunder mistake. And what's happening over the last few decades is you have the SMS kind of language, MMS kind of language. And unfortunately, you see, this is not our first language. We find that even in respect of the major English language news media, visual media, even with regard to, say, a saber news channel like, say, Times Now or India Today, you find that a lot of people it's seen that they don't speak good English these days, right? And English is a language which has to be used very carefully. And I just give you an example. Just a few days back in my school, there was a student who was saying, he was pronouncing this word L-I-O-N, and his pronunciation was loin, which is completely absurd. It's not just absurd, it gives a very awkward meaning. The meaning is completely changed, right? Loin refers to the pelvis region, the genital area, right? And it leaves a very bad taste in the mouth. I'll just give you another example. You can say that Mr. X married off his daughter. Just remove the preposition and then it gives you a very different kind of meaning, which is very awkward. So with respect to any language, you have to be very particular and see that you use the language in a proper way, whether it be in the spoken form or in the written form, right? The use of prepositions is very important. And then you will find that with regard to the use of prepositions, even the best of us get it wrong. In fact, there was one great Indian scholar by name the Silver-tongued Srinivasa Shastri. Then you see, Winston Churchill had an exchange of words with him. And then he said, what about a vehicle which can be used in all the three media, land, air and water? So he said tribious. Then Winston Churchill said, it has to be trifibious. So you have amphibious, then you have tribious, and using that as an analogy, the silver-tongued Right Honorable Srinivasa Shastri said it has to be tribious. But there is something else beyond just grammar. How does it sound to the ear? It has to be euphonious. And there was a student, I think of the junior category hailing from Narora, she suffered from a speaker's block. So that is something which can happen to the best of us. So you have a great writer by name Homer. What Valmiki and Vyasa are to India, Homer is to ancient Greece, right? And Homer is considered to be the national bard of Greece, and he has composed two great epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey. And in both these epics, you will find that in some cases you will find dull and uninspiring lines. And from this you have this expression in English, even Homer nods. Even Homer nods. What it means is, even to the best of us, you can have a bad day in the office, right? And you had great orators like Burke, Sheridan, etc. And I don't remember which of these two it was. Perhaps it was Burke, and he was suffering from a stammering problem. And you would be knowing that a person who suffers from the stammering problem, he would be suffering from a very deep-seated sense of inferiority complex. But then he had the fire in his belly, and he wanted to prove the world wrong, and everybody mocked at him and then said he was a no-gooder, and he practiced with pebbles in his mouth, and the world now knows him as one of the greatest orators that we could ever think of. Okay, so it is very important not to get demoralized. It's important to keep your spirits up, and it is very important for us to keep learning and to get our basics right, and language needs to be given emphasis. I do believe, from whatever I have seen, with all due respects, perhaps language is not being taken into consideration to the extent it ought to have been taken into consideration, and it has been subsumed under content or presentation, as the case might be. So there is a serious case for reviewing the parameters. Like, for instance, you have people with the same word, it changes in meaning. It changes in pronunciation when you're using it as a verb vis-a-vis when you use it as a noun. But many of us are very confused about it. We are not very sure about it. And then we think that we can pronounce it any which way we want. It's not like that. And it's very easy to make English the soft target and denigrate it by saying that it's an illogical language. But I think that is not the case. It has its own uniqueness. It is very important to appreciate the beauty of the language so that you can learn its nuances and get down to the nitty-gritty. For instance, when you're using it as a noun, it will be conduct, but when you're using it as a verb, it will be conducted, right? The conduct of the competition, not the conduct of the competition. Similarly, when you're using it as a noun, contest, right? I enjoyed this tight contest. He contested the decision of the umpire, but we are not very sure of that, and then we say he contested. Then when we're using it as a noun, we say it's a contest. So it's not like that. It's just our own pure ignorance, and then we should not be very self-conscious. And English is no respecter of democracy, and sometimes it can happen that you could be right and the other person could be wrong. And in fact, I had a teacher for whom I had the highest regard, and then he would say, there's a word Latter. He would pronounce it as later. I thought it must be latter. But then, since I had great regard for him, I thought he must be right. But then later, when I learned the phonetic script, I realized that I was right and he was wrong. Ram and Krish are brothers. The former is an engineer, the latter is a doctor. The latter, the second mention, right? So then we use the word tortoise, for instance. Most people would say tortoise, that doesn't make it right. 99% of the population will be pronouncing it tortoise. That still doesn't make it right. You'll find people saying iron. There is no word called iron, it is pronounced as iron. And for even very common words, I'm not looking at very far-fetched words. I'm not looking at bombastic words, I'm looking at very commonly used words and the most commonly made mistakes by the majority of the students. So you'll find people saying iron or it's not iron, it is only iron, it is only tortoise. So learn the phonetic script, because in the English language there is no one-to-one correspondence between the spoken form and the written form. In our Indian languages, there is absolute and perfect correspondence between the spoken and the written form. But in English, we need to learn the phonetic script so that we can optimally use a dictionary. And then we have certain variations. You can say dilemma, you can say dilemma, you can say data, you can say data. It all depends upon which version of English we follow, whether it is the British form or the American form. And we are supposed to be following the British form, to be more specific, the East Midlands dialect of London. Not just of London district, but the East Midlands area of London. So it's very important for us to develop a love for the language, and as members of the teaching community, we should really foster a love for the language. And if you're not sure about something, I think we should really not be misguiding the students. We should really take the pains to find out the mistake and find out what is the correct thing about it, and then enlighten the audience. So thank you very much for giving me this chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, as another English teacher, I would really appreciate it if something is done in the central office regarding the rubrics, because English, the language part, is absent in the content, in the rubrics. Thank you very much, sir, for pointing it out. With this, children, we'd like you to please go and join the audience, and soon we'll be starting with debate part 2 for the juniors. Thank you very much for spending